Okay, on the review, all you're doing is taking these properties and telling me the consequence. So on subtraction property, to get from here to here, the plus 5 went away by subtracting 5. So 10 minus 5 is 5. On number 2, to distribute, 3 times x is 3x. 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. On the division property of equality, if x over 3 equals 6, this is actually not division, it's multiplication. To get rid of a divided by 3, you're supposed to multiply by 3. 6 times 3 is 18. Symmetric means it's the same on both sides, so you can flip it. So AB equals YU, flip it over, YU equals AB. Combining like terms, if you have two x's, add them together. So 2x plus 3x equals 5x on one side. Reflexive is when it equals itself, so x equals x. On 7, you're giving me the property definition or postulate. So on 7, Vx equals xy, and then that xy equals yz. So this is one of those jumping from Vx equals yz. When you skip over the middle, that's called transitive property. On number 8, if x minus 1 equals 5, x equals 8, and you plug in 8 into that x, so it says 8 minus 1 equals 5, which is obviously not true, but if you plug it in, that's called substitution. On 9, if you take something, a number outside the parentheses, and you multiply it, 2 times x is 2x, 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. That's called distribution. 10, x equals y, y equals x. If it just flips the order, remember that's symmetric property. And then down here, make a conclusion. If 1's congruent to 2, 2 is congruent to 3, you can skip over it and say angle 1 is congruent to angle 3, right, by the transitive property. Okay, if P is the midpoint of NM, that means these are congruent, and P is congruent to PM. Okay, that's the definition of a midpoint. And then LP bisects MLQ, so MLQ, LP. So that means angle MLP is congruent to angle PLQ. That's the definition of a bisector. And then ham is vertical to eat. So remember, if you got ham and you got eat, vertical angles are congruent. So angle ham is congruent to angle eat because they are the definition of vertical angles. Okay, we got algebraic proofs. You're given this right here. Please remember your first reason is always given. Always. Your first step, if you ever have a number in front of parentheses, is to distribute. So you get 11x plus 16 equals 2 times 3, 6x. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. And that is distributive property. Okay, and then x was on both sides. You get rid of the smaller x, minus 6x, minus 6x. That does give me 5x. That was subtraction property. Okay, and then now step 3 is supposed to be another subtraction property, and that's right. To get rid of this loner plus 16, I need to subtract 16 on both sides. 5x equals negative 20. My last step to get rid of that 5 is to divide by 5. Okay, so x equals negative 4, just like I'm trying to prove. And that last step was division, POE. On 16, another algebraic proof. So remember the given, when we start with that, 2x minus 4 equals 12, x minus 2. That's always given. First step, if I see parentheses, I need to distribute. 2x minus 4 equals 12x minus 24. Distributive property. X is on both sides, so I get rid of the smaller x. Minus 2x minus 2x. Negative 4 equals 10x minus 24. That was subtraction POE. Okay, the loaner on the right side is negative 24, so let's add 24 to both sides. I get 20 equals 10x by, that time it was addition, property of equality. And then to get rid of that 10, I need to divide by 10. So I get 2 equals x by division. But x needs to be on the left-hand side, so I'm going to flip the order. X equals 2, and that is symmetric property. Alright. And let's talk about a geometric proof. Okay, we have a lot of stuff given. So our first reason is always given. Now our notes from yesterday should help us do this, and it was similar to the assignment. But if I got two angles that are vertical, I know those angles, leg, is congruent to 10. LEG is congruent to angle TEN. That's the definition of what it means to be vertical. And if they're congruent, that means the measurement is equal. Because that's what it means to be congruent. That's the definition of congruent. Okay. Now, I want to move from these measurements to some numbers. So I'm going to replace leg with 5x plus 3. Replace 10 with 3x minus 17. 5x plus 3 equals 3x minus 17. And that was substitution. So if you can get that far, now it's just some algebra. So x is on both sides. We get rid of the smaller x. So it's 2x plus 3 equals negative 17. That was subtraction property of equality. And then to get rid of the plus 3, we do minus 3 on both sides. 2x equals negative 20. Another subtraction POE. And then the last step, to get rid of this 2, we divide. X equals negative 10. Okay. Okay, now we're talking about a linear pair. First step is always given. Alright. So if we know leg and 10 are a linear pair, then we know that they are supplementary. And that's the definition of what it means to be a linear pair. Okay, so angle leg and angle 10 are sup. Okay, that's the definition of linear pair. We had one on your notes that was kind of just like this, linear pair, and that was actually number 2 on your notes. So if you look at yesterday's notes, number 2, it's just like this, different numbers. So if they're supplementary, that means we know that they add up to 180, so we can put the measure of angle leg plus the measure of angle 10 equals 180. Why? It's the definition of supplementary. And now we can start replacing with some of the stuff. We know what leg, whoops, so there's a typo here. This is supposed to be hog and got. So let's fix that. Whoops. Alright, so we're going to plug in POG is 3x plus 9, GOT is 6x. And since we just replaced the measurements with their values, that's substitution, property, and then we have multiple x's on the same side that we need to combine like terms. We got 3x and 6x. That gives us 9x plus 9 equals 180. Combining like terms. And then we have the loner, positive 9 we need to get rid of, so minus 9. 9x equals 171. Okay. That's subtraction, property of equality. And then we need to get rid of that 9. So we get rid of a coefficient by division. And x equals 171 divided by 9 is 19. That was division, POE, property of equality. And then we are not done, not only because we see there's blanks, but because we were trying to prove something else, that the measure of angle GOT equals 114. So we're going to write that out with a substitution in it. So the measure of angle GOT from up here was 6x. So we're going to write 6, and instead of x, we're going to replace it with what x equals, which is 19. And whenever we replace x with what it is equal to, we call that substitution. Okay, last but not least, 6 times 19, we get measure of angle GOT equals 6 times 19, which is 114 degrees. So this last step was just multiplication. It's not a property of equality because we didn't do it on both sides. It's just multiplication. So we proved what we set out to prove. On these, right here, this should be fixed. This is a plus sign on your sheet, not a minus sign. So if you see something different, or if you're not sure what that is, that should be a plus sign. There was a printing error on my part, my bad, but should be fixed. Find the function rule for the sequence, then find the 20th term. Okay, so we have the starting value. We got our A1, and then we got these changes. So we got adding 4, adding 4, adding 4. We got our D, our difference. So we can hopefully easily add 4 there. So our formula, AN equals A1 plus 4 and minus 1. And then we're just going to plug 20 in. Please remember the order of operations. First thing we do is in the parentheses, 20 minus 1 is 19. Okay. And then we do 4 times 19, and we get 76. And then negative 2 plus 76 is 74. One more time. So again, we got our A1, and we got our difference going here. So AN equals A1 plus the difference, negative 3 and minus 1. Plus negative 3, 25 minus 1. Notice the number, 25. So again, PEMDAS. So we got 10 plus a negative 72, which is negative 62. So remember, this was from the assignment from 10-9 on a Tuesday that we did for inductive reasoning. You should have turned that assignment in. This page before the geometric proofs was the last couple days, Monday and Friday, 22nd, and then the 19th. Algebraic proofs we did on Thursday, 10-18. You have an assignment on this one too that you did when the sub was here on that Thursday, and we did notes on that Wednesday. And then this page of simple one-step property problems we definitely did on Friday of last week, 10-19. So you have notes and videos for all this stuff, and you have this review to prepare for your test.